Texas A&M is absolutely killing the portal right now, Joe. They are currently the number one class in the transfer portal as it currently sits on this day, bringing in guys like Des Ricks, Trey Watson, Dorian Hinton, and I know that you're going to talk about your favorite guy, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about him. But what have you seen with this A&M transfer portal class that you like?
Yeah, I think A&M from the jump, they might not, they're not going to immediately be a 10-win team. It's going to take a little bit of time, but goddamn what Mike Elko has done in building this roster and getting all these defensive pieces. Some of them are only going to be there for a year, but I look at the importance of bringing in a guy like Des Ricks, who was one of the top corner prospects, that was a guy who reclassified, that's really talented, ends up going to Alabama, transferring now to Texas A&M. He's a building block piece. To get all these younger players is important, not for year one, but year two and year three, to fill some of those holes that you're dealing with a lot of premier players that entered and found other destinations or declared for the NFL draft. But I repeatedly keep saying this, to get Nick Scourton in your first year, to have a potential likely first round pick guy that, if he didn't get the right coaching, maybe doesn't end up being a first rounder, into your offense. Scourton's a really good, your defense. Scourton's a really damn good player. He is a physical, aggressive guy. He's got a nasty spin move. He's got really good hands. This defense might upset some teams. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see a random team next year have like 4 turnovers and give up like 4 sacks, and we're saying, how the hell did Texas A&M upset this team?
I'm not going to go there yet, okay, because they are replacing a lot of pieces.
Yes.
Right? Like they are replacing guys like Walter Nolan, LT Overton, and some of those dudes. I like Nick Scourton. I think he's one of the best edge rushers that will come out in next year's class. I like Scooby Williams, the linebacker from Florida. I even like BJ Mays, the kid from UAB. I think it's really underrated, getting a guy like Des Ricks. Let's see what happens with Des Ricks. Didn't really, he reclassified, didn't really see the field this past year. So what do you really get out of him? We'll see there. I do think that Mike Elko is having to rebuild a roster, and he's doing a lot of the same ways we've seen first-year coaches on how they rebuild and using the transfer portal. I think that they will be fine. I think they'll be better than what they were with Jimbo. How much better? I just don't know yet. I still think that they have a lot of question marks. How do they look defensively? Joe, how do they even look offensively? Because you still have guys like Evan Stewart that have left that building. Now, the ultimate question that I look at is, yes, you bring in a guy like E.J. Smith, the running back from Stanford. You do have some really good pieces there like Moss and Owens. But I just like they brought in Wesley Watson, the kid from Kansas State, the wide receiver. I mean, I'm not necessarily scared about that. So I agree with what you're saying. They've brought in a lot of really good pieces. I do think that they could get to 9 wins, believe it or not. I think they'll be 8-4, hover around 8-4, 9-3. Got a lot of good players, but Joe, I just can't go there yet. Now I know that Kyle's back, but just can't go there yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna confidently bang on the table here and do the Texas A&M is going to win 10 games. They're going to be really good this year. No, I'm not. I'm
down, Billy Lucci.
I'm not going to say that. The expectation needs to be pretty hampered for Texas A&M this upcoming season. But I think my point here is still pretty strong. They're going to be a well-coached defense. They've got a lot of premier blue chip guys playing in that defense. Mike Elko is a wizard in terms of his preparation and development of guys that I want to look at their schedule really quickly, because I think that there's going to be one game.
They got a tough schedule.
I know they do. I just think that there's going to be one game this year where we'll be like, holy shit, how did Texas A&M win? How did Texas A&M pull out that game? Because they just have such a good defensive performance, and maybe Connor Weigman goes off. Maybe that's Missouri. who they play early on in the season.
Man.
I think that'd be a pretty big upset to pull that out against Missouri. And maybe it's against Texas. Maybe Texas is a team that you could catch sleeping a little bit at the end of the year. I think that there's a lot of potential.
That's going to be a big rivalry game. Texas and A&M, both teams vehemently hate one another. I don't think you're going to catch Texas slipping on anything.
Well, maybe LSU. They can maybe catch LSU slipping. That's at home.
They
did catch LSU slipping 2 years ago.
They were 6-6.
LSU was?
Yeah.
No, 2 years ago when you guys were in the SEC championship game and you guys missed out on the playoff because of that game. Hey, you bring up Marshall all the damn time, okay? I get one every so often.
Notre Dame lost to Marshall, bud.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Don't bring up LSU in a negative content ever again. Yeah, I do think there's a potential. I like Mike Elko a lot. I again just want to. I want, if I'm just being objective, like, and not a fan. If I'm a fan of A&M, I would want to be really, intrigued, excited. It feels like a lot of energy's there. You're bringing in the number one portal class. I think that changes things because I think you get better on the offensive side of things from play calling. I think you get on a bet. Quite honestly, I just think you're going to be better all around from a play calling from the defensive side of things. I just think that they're a better overall team, even though, Joe, right now, actually, they're a better team because of coaching. They don't have better players or talent, but they just are better coached. That's why I think they'll be a better team.
Yeah, the better coaching is the big part here. I think that they retained also some of their key pieces. The better coaching is going to really show up. And I'm curious how quickly it does. Does it show up week 1 against Notre Dame? Does it show up down the line like in those games that I talked about against Missouri, against LSU, against Texas? They're good enough to find ways to steal wins. I think it's realistic to say that this is an 8-win football team potentially in 2024.
Texas 8-4. It's their calling
card. But let's be honest here, though. Elko first year 8-4 is a huge accomplishment with all the guys that left compared to Jimbo's version of 8-4.
Depends on how you look getting to that 8-4. It's not that you lose 4 games; it's how you got there. Like if you played all these games,
fair.
Like if they're defensively, like if they duke it up.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.